Hey everyone, we're going to do a quick video on the volume of spheres. For eighth grade math, as far as we're concerned, we're finding the volume of a three-dimensional object, which is what volume is. But the formula that we're going to use for volume of spheres is V equals 4 over 3, or 4/3, times pi times the radius cubed. R is obviously the radius. So we're not going to dive into about why this is more than just showing you how to do it. Okay. So you will probably need a calculator to help you out with this, and I'll have a graphing calculator. You can obviously use the one on your phone, that'll work just fine. But let's go ahead and break down this formula where V is volume and R is radius. Okay, so we need to be able to identify radius. So if I look at this sphere here, clearly I can see that the radius is halfway on that circular shape that's in the middle of the sphere. Okay, and then um, they also give you a scenario where you might have to find the volume of a hemisphere. So a hemisphere is half. Think about your globe. So it's half of a sphere, and we would find the volume and then divide by 2 to find the volume of a hemisphere. Okay? So now let's get into some practice because we're not necessarily worried about how these formulas relate between cones and cylinders. Um, but let's go ahead and jump right into number one. And it says R is 2.5. So if R equals 2.5 inches, then we plug that into our formula, or substitute rather, that's the correct term. V equals 4/3 pi R cubed. We're going to substitute R with 2.5, or replace them and swap them out. So V now becomes 4 over 3 times pi times 2.5 cubed. Okay, so when we put this in our calculator, we have control divide to get our fraction. So 4 over 3 times pi. I'm going to use the pi button right there. Times 2.5 raised to the third power. Okay, so our graphing calculator makes it very simple. If you weren't using a graphing calculator, you would do 2.5 cubed first, then multiply times pi, then multiply times 4, and divide by 3 in that order. Okay, but we were able to find that our volume is equal to 65.45. Now it says to the nearest hundredth. So if you see on my calculator, it says 449. So 9 brings that up, so it's 65.45, and we're going to say inches cubed. Okay. If you can do one of these, you should be able to do them all by using this strategy. So I'm going to skip around. Remember, if number 2 says the diameter is 30, what is your radius? Radius should be half of that. So on this one, R would be 15. Okay, so if you needed some practice here, go ahead and write your formula out. V is equal to 4/3 times pi times 15 cubed. Okay, and then you would find your volume there. Okay. Don't forget your units. Your units should be in millimeters cubed, or cubic millimeters. Okay. But what I want to go to now is the hemisphere, because those are a little bit different, right? R is 17.5 centimeters. Okay, and this is a hemisphere. So no, we know that we have to use the volume formula, which is V equals 4/3 pi R cubed. We replace R with 17.5, so V equals 4 over 3 times pi times 17.5 cubed. And we're going to enter that in our calculator, so we have room. I'm going to use a little bit of a cheat where I don't have to enter all the numbers in. All right, there we go. Replace this with 17.5, push enter. And my number is 22,000, so V equals 22,449.3. That's the volume of the full sphere. So remember, we need to find half V, or half of the sphere. So 1/2 V would be equal to half of that. So let's divide that by 2, and that would give us 11,224.6. 11,224.6. And that would be our volume of our hemisphere. Okay. Our units our units will be centimeters cubed. I didn't write the units 'cause I kind of ran out of room on this space. But remember, for hemisphere, you find the full volume first, and then you divide by 2. Okay? This is why I put half V. On to terms of pi. We can do hemisphere, but I think you get the point. When hemisphere, just find the volume and divide by 2. So let's go with number 4, where it says, find the volume in terms of pi. Okay, terms of pi, just remember it means multiply everything except for pi. So if R is 6.25, we're going to multiply everything. So this would be 4 over 3 times R cubed. Okay, and then pi is at the end. Because remember, we're not going to multiply that, right? And V is equal to all of that. So we're going to replace this to say 4 over 3 times 6.25 cubed. Okay, and then we'll add pi at the end. So in our calculator, we're going to do control divide 4 over 3, and then 6.25 cubed, which will give us 325.52. 325.52 pi feet cubed, or cubic feet. Okay, so the whole thing with terms of pi is multiplying everything except for pi, as you can see in my calculator as well. Our final answer would be if we multiply this all out, but if it says in terms of pi, remember this is the most exact version because pi is either 3.14 or 3.141, the rest of the irrational number that goes on forever. Some people use 3. So to be as exact as possible, this will be our closest one. Okay? All right. I got one more thing to show you, but I'll add this on a second video. So for now, remember, volume for the sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed, where r is the radius. Once we find our radius, we plug it into the formula, and then we multiply it all out. It's all multiplication, okay? On our next video, I will show you how to work backwards and solve for radius when only given the volume, okay? So stay tuned and be on the lookout for more content. Thank you.